All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new movie review. I just got done watching Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. And boy, first of all, I'm really disappointed with Netflix in not promoting this movie as much as they did the first one. In fact, when I logged into Netflix to watch it, I had to go look for it. It wasn't being promoted as like the big movie. It wasn't even in the trending section. It wasn't there for me to continue watching. It was buried. I had to go look for it. And so shame on Netflix for not promoting this movie more. You would think if you saw the first one, and a lot of people saw the first one, whether they liked it or not, they should have the option. They should be able to log in and have that second movie flashing for them to be able to watch. So that is a terrible decision on the part of Netflix. But let's talk about this movie. This is a direct sequel to Rebel Moon. It picks up right where Rebel Moon leaves off. You could watch them back to back as one long movie. I'm going to talk about what I didn't like first. Okay, a couple of things I didn't like. First of all, the feel of this film was a little bit different. The acting was nowhere quite as good as the first film. Well, I would say for the most part. Especially in the first hour of this film, where we spend some time with the villagers and our heroes, some of the acting is subpar. It is very stiff. It is not all that natural. It didn't flow. It didn't feel like the first film. The dialogue wasn't horrible. I just think it was in the way that the lines were delivered. I thought they could have done a better job. But that doesn't diminish the film really in too much of a way, because the star of this film is the second half, because almost at exactly the hour mark is when this big battle actually starts. And that doesn't mean that the first hour is wasted. We get to find out a much bigger history on our heroes. They go in and we get to see a little bit more about their past. And so it was the time was utilized really well. So that was one minor complaint, was the acting a little bit, especially in the first half. Second half was phenomenal. There are some scenes that are pretty emotional. And then the only other thing I didn't like was the fact that Jimmy wasn't in the movie a whole lot. The trailer made it seem like he was going to have this big role in the second film. Now, I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end of the movie, but I will tell you there is one amazing scene with Jimmy. I just wish there would have been more of him. But that doesn't mean we might not get more in the future. And I'm going to talk about something here at the very end of this review, and people may want to log off at that point. I'll warn you before I talk about it. So this film, I'll tell you what, this is what you call a blockbuster film. It amazes me that Zack Snyder was able to make these two movies for less than $100 million. I believe that's what the thing was. I believe it was under $100 million for both of them. I'm not sure what the exact number was. I didn't do the research before I did the review. But for him to make these two films on such a small budget, and that includes the extended versions that are going to come out, there was no extra money spent because they knew they were going to be doing the extended versions, and so that was built in. If only they would have done the DCEU on a budget like this, it would have helped the studios a lot more, because those films are not grossing, the DCU films are not grossing what they used to, and they're not going to. I don't think Superman's going to make anywhere near the amount of money that these other films, that the early DCEU films made. And so I think that's phenomenal. The music, the score in this film is amazing. I'm actually going to pick up the score to this. It is emotional, it is moving, it is compelling, it is pretty awesome. And we get to see, so one of my fears going into this is that when the battle finally started, that there was going to be chaos, it wasn't going to be easy to follow, and this was just the exact opposite. I can tell you that Zack Snyder planned this out, his choreographer. This was a meticulous planning. Everybody shined. Everybody had their moment. There were stages to this battle, and it was really well thought out and planned so that it wasn't just mass chaos go in and everything was just going to be, utter just like you weren't going to be able to follow it. This is easy to follow. Everybody has their moment, and there are some really emotional scenes. Things you don't expect are going to happen will happen. Noble is back. Noble didn't seem quite as fierce in this. He had a couple of cool moments, but he wasn't as scary. The one thing that the first film did, and this film makes the first film a much better film, and I want to say that right off. You can appreciate what they did in the first film much more, because I don't think this film would have had the impact had we not had that first film where we got to see who these characters were, especially Noble. Noble did not seem as noble in this particular film. But, again, he still has his moments. And the overall thing I can say about this film is that the quality seemed like a step down, except for the battle and the CGI. The CGI in this film was amazing. There are some battle sequences that were amazing, and I got to give them credit to that. It's just the first half seemed a little cheap compared to what the first film seemed like. And so the second half, I've got no complaints. The second half is a 5-star movie. It's amazing. First half, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. So at the end, I would have to give this film a 4 out of 5. I think this is a much better film than the first film was. And I think it's going to keep the attention of the people who may have been annoyed. Now, there's plenty of slow motion in this, and you just got to understand if you're watching a Zack Snyder film, you're going to get that slow motion. But the slow motion in this also was much better and much more compelling. And I appreciated it in a lot of the action sequences because you got to see some pretty cool stuff. And there are some pretty cool effects in this film, some unexpected things that happen. And I was very happy with the execution by the end of the film. So, yes, this is a great compliment to the first film. You could watch them back-to-back as one long movie, and it's pretty explosive. This is what you call a blockbuster film. When you go to see a blockbuster, this is what you call a blockbuster. And there were some unexpected moments and some cool things that happened, some big revelations in regards to the story. All right, now, if you don't want to be spoiled by anything, now is where you want to log off and not listen to anything else. All right, for everybody who has seen it, what I loved about the ending is this opens up a whole new world. This is definitely not the end, and they are promising and teasing a whole universe, a whole story that could be leading us to many stories for years to come. And I hope that this movie does as well on Netflix as it needs to be able to warrant getting episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, because it is planned to be 6 films at this stage, with possibly more if it continues to do well. But as far as the start of a franchise, I see this as an amazing start to a franchise. The second film was much more compelling, and it was also more engaging and more satisfying than the first movie was. There are still some things I really liked about the first film. I think the whole last 20 minutes of that first film was incredible. And we have the whole battle sequence in this film was that times more. But there's something more personal that I liked about that. The betrayal in the first film and everything that happened. And, yeah, pretty compelling stuff. All right, guys, so at the end of the day, like I said, I give this film 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think if the acting had been a little more compelling, a little more, I don't know what you would call it, just a little more solid in the first half, I think I would have given this a full 5 stars. But it's just, there's something weird with the acting in the first half, and I still enjoyed it, though. But, man, that second half is something incredible. I will definitely be watching this again. So I do appreciate it. What did you guys think? If you've seen the movie, what did you think? Sound off below. I will be back with more movie reviews coming up. I still got to get my Civil War review up, which I will probably do later today. I do appreciate it. We will see you guys on the next review.